You know, it's funny, you know, I'm reminded why I need to come to film festivals, because when I come here, I get to experience some love. People say, man, you've made almost 70 movies. They're really good. They generate a profit, a return. They win prizes. You're really smart. You're a great guy. I sit down with a venture capitalist or a person in another business, and they say, Ted, you have to be one of the biggest fools on the earth. I can't believe that you've done this. You've made almost 70 movies, 70 new business startups, and each time you do it from scratch, all over again. You keep none of the information that you've done. Why are you rebuilding the wheel every single time? Matter of fact, I look at what you do, and I can tell that you actually don't even understand what your business is. You have no clue. Similarly, when I was making 2 films ago, I made a film called Super, which starred Rainn Wilson, Liv Tyler, Ellen Page, Nathan Fillion, Kevin Bacon. And before I started, a guy in the ad sales business came to me and said precisely this: Ted, what a fool you are. You know, it's taking you 2 years to make your film, and you already have 2 years between conception to release, generally speaking, and you already have the necessary ingredients to do ad sales. I could probably get you about $250,000 a month selling ads on a platform if you can get your actors to just tweet 2 or 3 times, you know, a week about it, to create some photos from the set, to you and your director to make some additional content, that by the time your film comes out, you could have $6 million raised from ad sales to push your movie out.
And I think, you know, one of the things that drives me crazy the most when I'm dealing with filmmakers is a lot of times they might even have a website for their film, but then you go on there and they have nowhere where they're collecting someone's email address. And so they've got this fancy website, but there's nowhere where if I come in there and I want to say, hey, I want to be your fan, I want to know when this movie opens in my town, I can't even tell you.
In the U.S., the way I've gotten my movies made, you know, over the last 25 years is through private equity. We don't have any government subsidies. You know, there is no government funding for the arts to speak of. We have something called the National Endowment of the Arts, and their annual budget was less than the woman who funded her campaign for governor of California, Meg Whitman, and lost last year. She spent more money on her campaign in the state of California than her entire national budget for all arts, cross-disciplinary, in the U.S. is.
If you look back at the music business, the reason that it got decimated and completely changed, it wasn't that they were all stupid. You know, Warner Brothers executives and all these different people from the record labels, they weren't idiots. They saw digital coming at them. An old friend of mine always says that the future is the easiest thing to see because it's coming right at you. The present you can never define because whoever's in charge right now sets the parameters of how you understand the present. And the past was written by the winners. But the future is right there in front of you and you can see it. But the problem is you're so busy just trying to do what you're already doing that you don't address it. And that's what the music business did. They said, oh, we can just keep on doing the same thing. We'll just sell these albums for way too much money and we won't address the fact that people don't want the whole album. They just want the single and all this kind of stuff. And they got decimated. And the people who did look at what was happening were able to take advantage of it.
To sum it up, for me, like people ask, so what the hell do I do? I'm a filmmaker, or I'm a producer, I run a production company, I run a distributor, I run a sales agent. What the hell do I do? And I think it's precisely that shift of a business model from a one-off, you know, we sell each individual film, to try to figure out how do we start an ongoing conversation. You know, and I think this is true also for, you know, exhibitors and film festivals alike. You know, how do we turn our practice into the kind of glue that brings community together in different ways? Our role is not just to make, you know, to develop a script or produce a script, you know, produce a film. It's these other parts of cinema that are also our domain that we have to be willing to enter. Is it really just that people want to see a poster, an image, or see a trailer? Or is there a lot more that can be done over those 2 years of process of us making a film and bringing a film out to an audience? It's that question of participation. It's the question of appreciation. You know, how do we help somebody understand what we're trying to say? Do we just throw it up there and hope that the reviewers do their job? It's really hard, you know, when there's 45,000 films a year. At least in America, the critics no longer try to fit the film into the cultural landscape, the conversation that's going. They just kind of go like this. And you're supposed to say, oh yeah, 3 stars, 4 stars, or it's #1, let's go see it. How do I bring more value to the equation to kind of help those movies pop to the top of my to-watch list? And finally, it's also the question of presentation. You know, you see here, you experience it here in Karlovy Vary, you know, every film sells out. The crowds are camping out on the hills to go see movies. But what happens to the films? I've heard the story at the same time. You know, they'll come out the next week in the theater and nobody shows up.
Right now, you really need to get the people come to the movie theaters just to see the movie and to pay. Let's say when they come to see the movie. There is another model, as you mentioned, this Netflix and so on, that you can prescribe, you can get and download the movie officially. But is there any chance, or do you see any potential how to utilize these new technologies also for distribution and, let's say, involvement further on?
We're getting to a point soon where, you know, everyone has things like Square that you can put on your phone and you can charge someone's credit card right from your iPhone. I mean, you're getting to the point where you could just say, okay, the Jameson tent, we're going to show our movie at 3 o'clock tomorrow, and you can sell tickets online and collect the money at the door much easier. You know, you're getting to a point where, you know, this kind of a the system where you could only have these certain number of films playing at a theater at any given time. Well, now you can pretty much let people vote on what they want to see. And if 100 people suddenly want to see a movie at 3 o'clock tomorrow, that can be the one you throw up on that screen. I think we're going to see the biggest single moneymaker, I think, in the future is going to be when we connect social check-in, things like Foursquare and things like that, with content and what happens with that next. So, you know, it's ridiculous that when I come to Karlovy Vary and I see 10 or 15 films that are amazing, I should be able to share that out to my network automatically, and my network should be able to be notified when they come to New York or Seattle or wherever they live. They just say, hey, oh, wait, Brian told me about this movie he saw at Karlovy Vary, and now it's playing at Seattle. Right now, there's no way for me to make that connection very easily unless I send you an email and you write it down somewhere and you remember to check the Seattle Film Festival's catalog. That's just ridiculous. You know, the way technology can now change that. And then you know, there's a film being shot right now in Finland called Iron Sky, and the filmmakers haven't shot any scene of the movie yet. They've got a little bit of kind of fake mocked up footage on their webpage, but they haven't shot a scene of the movie yet, and they've got 50,000 people who have already demanded they want to see Iron Sky in their communities, and they haven't shot anything yet. And they've got 50,000 people already saying, I want to see this. Their hope is they're not going to self-distribute that movie. They want to go to a distributor and say, look, there's a demand for this movie. You should buy this film, and maybe drive up their price a little bit by being able to point out, we're not just making this up. We've got the email addresses of 50,000 people who want to see this movie. And by the time they shoot the movie, they're hoping they'll have 500,000 people. So there's just a few examples, but I think, you know, the doors are wide open for what we can do in terms of technology shifting the distribution and exhibition equation.